Show me your papers. Now.
I'm a licensed pharmacist. I work here.
I don't care what you claim. Citizenship. Prove it. Now.
I was born in Minneapolis. What you're doing is harassment.
He reached for his cuffs anyway. Agent Derek Solano thought this was a routine stop. He thought an anonymous tip was enough. He thought his badge outranked the Constitution. 18 months later, a federal jury told him exactly how wrong he was to the tune of $13.9 million. But here's what Solano didn't know when he walked through that door. Everything was already being recorded. Every word, every move from 4 different angles. Before we go further, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. Stories like this one need witnesses. Hit subscribe if this is your first time here. The truth doesn't record itself. Tuesday morning, Minneapolis, 10:42 a.m. Dr. Camille Renee Okafor was behind the pharmacy counter, exactly where she had been for the past 10 years. She was explaining insulin dosage to an elderly man with a walker, the same patient she'd seen every third Tuesday for 6 years. She was 41 years old, PharmDD owner of an independent pharmacy serving over 2,300 patients a year. In 2022, the Minnesota Independent Pharmacy Association gave her their Excellence Award, not for volume, for care. She knew drug interactions, contraindications, and state pharmacy law the way most people know their own address. And she knew one more thing that would matter before the morning was over. She knew exactly what ICE agents are and are not legally permitted to do inside a private workplace. That knowledge would cost Derek Solano everything. Solano had been with ICE's enforcement and removal operations for 4 years. 4 years was long enough to feel confident, not long enough to stay careful. In the 18 months before that Tuesday morning, 3 separate complaints had been filed against him for entering workplaces without a judicial warrant. 3 complaints, 0 consequences. He had received an anonymous tip, no name, no specifics, no verification. He didn't wait for a warrant. He grabbed 2 other agents and drove to the pharmacy. At 10:42 a.m., 3 federal agents walked through the front door. Body cameras were active. 4 ceiling-mounted security cameras were recording. 7 customers sat in the waiting area. On the wall behind Camille, her DEA registration, her state pharmacy license stamped by the Minnesota Board of Pharmacy, her doctorate degree from the University of Minnesota. Solano walked past all of it. He headed straight for Camille. "I need to see your identification and proof of legal work authorization." Camille set down the prescription she was holding. Slowly, deliberately. "Officer, do you have a judicial warrant?" Solano blinked. "We received a complaint." "That's not what I asked." Her voice was even. "Do you have a judicial warrant authorizing you to demand employment documentation inside a private workplace?" Silence. She continued. "Under ICE's own workplace enforcement guidelines, agents are required to obtain a judicial warrant before compelling employees to produce work authorization documents. An administrative warrant is not sufficient. An anonymous tip is not sufficient. You know this, or you should." Solano's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to cooperate." "I am cooperating. I'm telling you the law." She turned and pointed to the wall behind her. DEA registration, Minnesota Board of Pharmacy license, University of Minnesota diploma, Doctor of Pharmacy. It's all right there, officer. Every credential I am legally required to hold. Issued by the state, issued by the federal government. Right there. Solano looked at the wall, looked back at her. "I need a government-issued photo ID and proof of citizenship." He had no answer for the Fourth Amendment, so he moved past it. That moment was captured on 3 body cameras and 2 ceiling-mounted security feeds simultaneously. He called for backup. 2 additional agents entered through the front door at 10:51 a.m. The bell above the entrance chimed. 7 customers in the waiting area turned their heads. No one moved toward the exit. They just watched. Near the window marked "Pickup," an elderly woman in a blue cardigan sat with a paper bag on her lap, empty. She had been waiting for her insulin refill when the agents arrived. She leaned toward the pharmacy technician at the counter and asked quietly, "Is she okay?" The technician didn't answer. She didn't know what to say. The security camera above the pickup window recorded both of them. The empty bag, the unanswered question. Camille did not raise her voice. She did not step back. She addressed Solano directly, calmly in front of his backup and everyone in that room. Officer, I'm asking you one more time. Either produce a judicial warrant or contact your supervisor. Those are your two options. I will wait. Solano crossed his arms. We're not leaving without verifying your status. Then you're going to need that warrant. He didn't call his supervisor. He didn't produce a warrant. He had neither. What he had was a badge, 3 agents, and the assumption that would eventually cost him everything. What happened next would end up in federal court. Ask yourself, if you were standing in that waiting room watching this unfold, what would you have done? At 10:58 a.m., Solano made his decision. You're being detained, hands behind your back. No warrant, no probable cause, no crime. Just those 4 words. Camille Okafor placed her hands behind her back without resistance. She did not argue. She did not pull away. She understood in that moment exactly what she was doing and exactly why. She looked directly into Solano's body camera. Her voice did not shake. My name is Dr. Camille Renee Okafor. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am a licensed pharmacist and the owner of this establishment. Agent Derek Solano, badge number 3847, is detaining me without a judicial warrant, without probable cause, and without any articulable, reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. I have cited the Fourth Amendment. I have cited ICE Workplace Enforcement Protocol. I have complied with every lawful request. This detention is unlawful. Every word recorded, time-stamped, 4 angles. 7 customers watched a woman in a white pharmacist coat get handcuffed behind her own counter. The elderly woman in the blue cardigan pressed her empty bag against her chest. One customer near the entrance took out his phone. A second agent stepped toward him. He put it away. The security system kept recording. Agent Torres, the second agent, moved behind the counter to retrieve Camille's bag from the shelf. He opened her wallet. Minnesota driver's license, photo, date of birth, Minneapolis, Minnesota, United States passport card, Gold Eagle, name Camille Renee Okafor. Place of birth, Minneapolis, Minnesota, DEA registration card, active, federal. Torres looked up. She's American, born here. Everything checks out. The room went still. Solano didn't look at the documents. He looked at the wall. Process her anyway. Obstruction. 2 words. That was all. Process her anyway. Torres hesitated. His body camera recorded the pause, 3 full seconds of a man deciding whether to follow an order he knew was wrong. Then he followed it. That 3-second pause would later be cited in the federal lawsuit. The pharmacy closed at 11:04 a.m. Agents secured the entrance. A handwritten sign went up on the door, temporarily closed. The elderly woman in the blue cardigan was helped to the door by a technician. Her insulin was still behind the counter. She would have to call her doctor. She was 79 years old. It was February in Minneapolis. The security system recorded her leaving. The empty bag, the door closing behind her. It recorded all of it. At the processing facility, Camille sat across from a camera, a federal camera this time. She was still in her white coat, name tag still visible. She had been in handcuffs for 40 minutes. She looked into the lens and began again. My name is Dr. Camille Renee Okafor. Today is Tuesday. The time is approximately 11:47 a.m. I am recording the statement for the record. She named every agent, every badge number she had seen, every exchange in sequence with timestamps. She cited the Fourth Amendment, the ICE national policy on civil immigration enforcement in sensitive locations, and the specific protocol on judicial versus administrative warrants. She spoke for 9 minutes without notes, steady, precise, unflinching. When she finished, she sat back and waited. She had given them everything they would need. She just had to wait for the system to catch up. 5 weeks after the arrest, the Hennepin County prosecutor closed the file. No trial, no hearing. Just a memo, 4 pages that methodically dismantled every justification Solano had offered. The prosecutor's office had reviewed all of it. Both body cameras, Torres's camera, the facility intake recording, and all four angles from the pharmacy security system, the overhead feed above the counter, the wide shot from the entrance, the close angle at the pickup window. The timestamp record that logged every second from 10:42 to 11:04 a.m. The conclusion was not complicated. No reasonable suspicion, no judicial warrant, no lawful basis for detention. The defendant had correctly and repeatedly cited her constitutional rights. Her refusal to produce documentation was lawful. The arrest was retaliatory in nature. All charges dismissed. The memo recommended the matter be referred to Internal Affairs for review of the arresting officer's conduct. The cameras had recorded everything. Every word Solano said. Every credential he walked past. Every second of Torres reading aloud from Camille's wallet, "She's American-born here," and Solano's response process her anyway. 3 words, on camera, timestamp. The silent courtroom had delivered its verdict before any judge was involved. 4 days after the dismissal, Camille walked into the ACLU of Minnesota's offices on Nicollet Mall. The attorney who met her was a man named Richard Adeyemi, 23 years in civil rights litigation, most of them in federal court. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he opened his laptop and pulled up Solano's complaint history. 3 prior incidents, all within 18 months. All involving warrantless entry into workplaces during Operation Metro Surge enforcement actions. The first complaint had been filed by a restaurant owner in St. Paul. The second by a construction site foreman in North Minneapolis. The third by a laundry facility manager in Brooklyn Park. In all 3 cases, Solano had entered private workplaces without a judicial warrant. In all 3 cases, employees had been questioned without legal basis. In all 3 cases, the complaints had been logged, reviewed, and closed with no disciplinary action. He had done this before, 3 times, with no consequences. Until Tuesday morning, when he walked into a pharmacy owned by a woman who knew the protocol better than he did, and every camera in the building was running. Adeyemi looked up from the screen. "We're filing federal." The lawsuit landed in United States District Court for the District of Minnesota 6 weeks later. Dr. Camille Renee Okafor versus the United States Department of Homeland Security, Immigration, and Customs Enforcement and Agent Derek Solano individually. 4th Amendment violations. False arrest. Retaliation for exercising constitutional rights. Selective enforcement based on race. Discovery began. And that's when the second file opened. ICE was compelled to produce Solano's training records, full employment history, certification status. The records showed that Solano had never completed the Workplace Civil Enforcement Protocol certification, the mandatory training that outlines the legal requirements for conducting enforcement actions at a private work sites, including the judicial warrant requirement he had ignored 3 times before, and once more on that Tuesday morning. He had been authorized to conduct workplace raids. He had never been certified to do so correctly. The agency had sent him into the field anyway. He didn't just break the rules. He was never fully trained on what the rules were, and the agency that handed him a badge knew it. Solano received a 60-day suspension while the lawsuit was pending, not termination. 60 days for arresting an American citizen at her own workplace. No warrant, no probable cause, no crime, 60 days. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was that enough? I want to hear what you think. The trial lasted 9 days. The jury, 8 men and women from across the Minneapolis metro, ranging in age from their 30s to their late 60s, watched the footage on the first morning. All 4 camera angles, side by side on a split screen. They watched Solano walk past the credentials on the wall. They watched Camille cite the law calmly twice. They watched Torres open the wallet and read aloud. They watched Solano say process her anyway. They watched the elderly woman leave through the front door with an empty bag. When the footage ended, the courtroom was quiet for a long moment. Adeyemi's closing argument was 11 minutes long. He didn't raise his voice once. The law was on the wall. The citizenship was in the wallet. The warrant was never obtained because there was never a legal basis for one. Dr. Okafor told Agent Solano exactly what the Constitution required. He arrested her for it. That is not enforcement. That is retaliation. And the cameras recorded every second. The jury deliberated for 2 days. The verdict liable on all counts. Compensatory damages $6.4 million. Lost income, reputational harm, emotional distress, cost of legal defense, every quantifiable consequence of 40 minutes on a Tuesday morning. Punitive damages, $7.5 million. Calculated specifically to address the pattern, not just one agent's decision, but an agency that had received 3 prior complaints about this agent and sent him back into the field without certification, without correction, without consequence. Total $13.9 million. The largest civil rights verdict against ICE in the history of the state of Minnesota. The number that opened this story in the first 30 seconds had just closed. The verdict landed on a Thursday afternoon. By Friday morning, the Department of Justice had announced an independent review of workplace enforcement protocols across ICE's Minneapolis field office. By the following week, the office had issued an internal mandate: no workplace enforcement action without a judicial warrant, no exceptions. Effective immediately. Operation Metro Surge, already under congressional scrutiny, faced new pressure. The case became part of a broader DOJ audit examining whether the surge had systematically targeted workplaces without proper legal authorization. Congressional hearings were scheduled. The audit is ongoing. 1 pharmacist, 1 Tuesday morning, 4 cameras, $13.9 million, and a policy that changed. Camille reopened her pharmacy the Monday after the verdict. She didn't hold a press conference. She didn't give interviews. She turned on the lights, unlocked the front door, and went back behind the counter. By 9 a.m., the waiting room was full. Her first patient that morning was an elderly woman in a blue cardigan. She came through the door at 8:47, well before her usual time. She handed over her prescription without a word. Camille filled it, came around the counter, and placed the bag in her hands directly. The security camera above the pickup window recorded the moment. Same angle as before. Same woman. Different outcome. 3 months after the verdict, Camille established the Fourth Amendment Defense Fund, a nonprofit providing free legal consultation to Minneapolis residents who believe their constitutional rights have been violated during immigration enforcement actions. In the first 60 days, the fund received over 400 inquiries. She is still behind the counter, still serving 2,300 patients a year, still explaining insulin dosage to elderly men with walkers every 3rd Tuesday. And on the wall behind her, the same wall Solano walked past her DEA registration, her pharmacy license, and her diploma still hang exactly where they always were. The body cameras were rolling. The security system was recording. And Dr. Camille Okafor knew exactly what she was doing. She didn't run. She didn't beg. She stated her name, cited the law, and waited for the truth to catch up. It always does. When there are enough cameras, when someone refuses to be invisible, when the record is complete, tomorrow another city, another badge, another American who stood their ground and said, "I know my rights." Do you, the cameras were rolling for that one too? If you believe a judicial warrant should be required before any federal agent demands your papers, share this video. Someone in your life needs to hear this story. Subscribe, because tomorrow's case is already recorded. And the truth is already on tape.